Hey, everybody. Hope all is well. Go ahead and unmute yourself, type in, and go ahead and fire away.
And go ahead, Troy, then Deborah.
Hey, Troy.
Hey Greg, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. We're just calling or raise my hand to talk about the foot and some things I could do to potentially fortify it, against re-injury.
Sure. And remind me, you like stepped on something, or like remind me how it broke or fractured.
I originally broke it at work when I just went to lift a really big heavy crate with art inside it. And the crate didn't actually fall on my foot. I just went and posted up next to it and went to lift. And as soon as I kind of shifted my weight onto my left foot, I heard the pop sound and it hurt real bad. That was back at the end of March.
Okay.
And at that time I went in, got the x-ray, and it showed a break in the fifth metatarsal.
Okay. So I would do three things. One is I would put marjoram on your foot. You could put it on neat, but I would put it on probably just put like a little bit of lotion or massage oil or something in your hand, and like 8-10 drops like this, and then rub it all over the foot. I do that every night as you're going to bed. And the thing is the marjoram would increase blood supply to the muscles in and around the area. And it is one of the things that kind of can help to accelerate like the density of bone. You wouldn't use it for like osteoporosis or something, but for here, like when you're trying to get something to heal, or like you said, you're just trying to fortify the area to keep it from happening, you're supporting muscle, tendon, and the bone itself. Because the issue could have been that there was so much tension in the foot that the muscles pulled so hard, or the fascia pulled so hard, that it might have caused the fracture. I mean, it's hard to say. It could have just been the pressure itself, but we're just dealing with speculation or potentials. But so I do that. I would take vitamin D. Wouldn't take like massive dosages, but I would take a pretty healthy dosage, at least 3 or 4 times a week. It doesn't have to be daily. Even if you're getting a decent amount of sun, I'd probably still bump that up a little bit. And then you can use Solomon seal. And Solomon seal, again, is one of the ones to help with like broken bones and things. But actually here I would probably do nettle. And the reason for the nettle is, for one, nettle is good for soft tissue type things. It's good for allergies, things like that. But it is one of the other things that you can use for when bones have gotten broken or fractured and things like that. It has a high level of calcium that's really good, like calcium that you can really assimilate really well. And so I would probably do the combination of the three, just to fortify the tissues, the foot, the bone, all of that stuff. I think that's a good, like, multifaceted approach to go through and treat that and have that density stay good. The thing that I would be kind of curious about, you're still pretty young. If you were another 10, 15, 20 years older, I would say, maybe we need to have you get a bone density test, just to make sure that there's no weird bone density issue. I mean, given your age and the kind of work that you do, I don't think you have a bone density issue. Like, because one of the best things for like osteoporosis, which is a bone density thing, you can take all the supplements and everything, you can do all those things, but weight bearing exercise is the thing that makes bones the strongest. And so that you are lifting and holding on the wall and hitting things with a hammer, doing all the work that you're doing. I don't know that that's really an issue. And so I know you can't really do like weightlifting with your foot or your toes or anything, but the bone density I think is probably fine. It's just, it's probably a lot of weight. I suspect there might have been, I mean, it's hard to say, but there might have been already a hairline fracture or something present. It's weird that you pick something up and had it happen. Doesn't mean that there had to be a hairline fracture, but a lot of weight could do that too. Like especially weight, and if you were doing something at like an odd angle or something, like holding it off to the side or your leg was off, whatever it might be. And you're doing the stuff that you're doing, you're probably having to adapt to a lot of different scenarios. But you see sometimes like in runners, they'll get like little hairline fractures sometimes in their bones in their feet. And usually it's from like they've stepped on something, or it's excessive amounts of running with poorly padded shoes. Like a lot of times they'll have like their favorite shoes and that are already thin soled to begin with, and they're running a lot on cement.
I don't run on concrete anymore. I did in high school for cross
Yeah,
country.
but
We ran a
that
lot
that
of
would have
concrete.
yeah, but that would have been resolved. Like if you had some injury from back then, I mean, 4 weeks it was gone.
Well, I run on trail, and I have been running a lot the last like 15 years on trails, and I run in like minimalist shoes, so like the thinner soles.
Yeah, but that you're on dirt and grass and things like that, I would be less concerned about that.
Okay.
It would have been, I mean, anything's possible, but given your age and the kind of work that you do, um, it
Do
would
you
be,
think I would have noticed it?
sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like, I mean, I think it would have caused you some sort of pain, like when it happened, but it might have been one of those things where, when people are used to exercising and pushing their body kind of hard, you get used to pushing through little weird aches and pains. And so it might have been a thing where it started hurting. You didn't think anything of it. You're just like, but I'm hungry. I still got to go do this. I got to pick the kid up. And you know what I mean? You got your list to do and you might not have paid attention to it. And so,
It
I, I
sounds
I
like
mean,
me.
it's a possibility. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it's odd that you had that injury just from lifting something.
Well, that's what the workers' comp was about, was that why they kicked it out is they said that their doctor that analyzed the x-ray of the original break from March,
Mhm.
that he looked at it, he thought that there was some suggestion of a possibility of a hairline fracture pre-existing. So that goes with what you're saying. And then, but I went back to
Yeah.
work. I went back to work in March after like 5 days off, and I honestly felt okay. It didn't hurt that much, but it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago when I was at home, and I just went down the steps in the backyard and stepped on a rock funny in the backyard. That's when it broke much worse.
See, like
And
that makes sense to me right there. Like you step on a rock, you step on an acorn, you step on a pine cone, like all those things make sense to me. What, or you step in a hole, something that makes sense to me. But given your age and your health and the kind of work that you do, I mean, we say like, okay, there could have been a pre-existing thing, just because like in general, people presenting that would be one of the big things you would look at. But you're a little young for that. You know what I mean? For just us, I don't know. Usually
Okay.
there's some sort of injury, given your age. Like it wouldn't be just like you had a hairline fracture, just, maybe if you had jumped off of something or running downhill and was really pounding super hard. Um, there could be all kinds of variations, but I like your plan. Go through, fortify those things up, strengthen them all. And have you been prone to tendonitis in that foot or leg or calf or shin or anything?
No, no. In fact, like in 30 years of running long distance, it's almost always been the right side that there's injuries or tightness or anything. This is like kind of the first time anything's happened on the left side.
Are you prone to cramps in the calves? None of
Yes,
the
but
places, just
also
the calves. Yeah.
usually in the hamstring and usually
Okay.
on the right side, not
Okay.
the left.
So, that rules out a lot of other stuff. Like, so I go back to what we're saying. Like I would take, like maybe the equivalent of three or four capsules of nettle, maybe twice a day. Get a little vitamin D in you from time to time. And uh, what was the other thing I said? Vitamin D, nettle,
Marjoram.
marjoram. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, I just started back to work today after like 4.5 weeks off. And honestly, for how painful it was that first week or so,
Uh-huh.
pretty amazing that I'm walking around pretty normal and back
Okay,
at work
good.
already. But
Yeah.
I also just want to make sure since like I wasn't conscious of any pre-existing time that I, could have hairline fractured it. I think it is possible. That does sound like my MO. That if I had heard it, I would have just rubbed some dirt on it and
Yeah.
kept running.
I mean, that's what athletes do. That's what like I used to call them weekend warriors who would like work all week and then go out really hard on the weekend. They're usually always nursing something. And you're more active than a weekend warrior. Like, so, you're doing it consistently and everything. But again, it's very common like to have an ache or pain. And if you stopped every time there's an ache and pain, you'd never go out and do anything. So,
Yeah.
that's a thing with athletes is they'll push through things that, might stop me, but it's not going to stop you. You know what I mean? Like if my foot hurt, I was like, okay, it's couch time. I'm not doing anything for a few weeks.
Well, that's
Where
kind of what happened is I got 2 months out from the original injury and was just thinking a couple days before then, oh, I bet I can go start running trail again when
yeah,
that happened.
yeah,
And so now I'm walking around normal again. And in the back of my head, I'm like thinking, when can I hit the trail again? I mean, I don't think like super soon, but I just want to like get real strong and fortify it so that, I can go out and run some trail again or can go back and climb, do some
yeah,
rock climbing.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, try that. That's what I would do.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask one more question?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is I was driving recently and the light was just so that I noticed on my hand when it was up on the steering wheel, like kind of like sort of light brown spots. And it seemed
Yeah,
like they appeared out of nowhere.
they're flat. Like
Yeah,
they're
they're
real.
totally flat. And like I'm a little bit tan right now. I've been getting a lot of sun, but I can still kind of just see them. But when the light is just right, it looks like I've got these little like kind of brown spots on the top
Yeah.
of both
So
hands.
sometimes people call those age spots. Sometimes they call them liver spots. They're just a thing that starts to happen. The thing that does help them go away is you can take lemon internally. It's really slow, but it can help with that. But somebody had asked that a couple of months ago, and I don't I want to say it was Megan up in Seattle, but um she was talking about them like on her face, but they can appear anywhere, but it's usually like hands, arms, face, neck, but they can pop up anywhere. I was reading a study where people were using sandalwood neat on those areas, and that it was helping the spots to go away. And so I had never heard that, but that there was I think it was a study out of Germany or something, and so it was a reliable source, and so I mean I would give that a shot. Just put a little drop of sandalwood in there and just rub it into that spot. Try to do it daily, and um, the report said that after a short amount of time, it actually makes them go away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any course, if it were to potentially point out like any kind of potential issue in the liver, is there any kind of correspondence between like
No, it's
the liver and the bone?
no, I don't think so. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, sometimes it could be blood quality or something like that, but usually, like with the liver, you look at more like pain syndromes. Um, Bones and stuff, I tend to, like, if I was to look at like just outside of the box and looking at things, I might go kidney. Like how the kidneys doing, what's going on with the kidneys, because the kidneys have so much to do with mineral balance and things like that. And so, um, yeah.
So could I do kidney support, or can you look at the
Yeah.
kidney, see how much that
Your
is?
kidneys don't look that bad. No, you're fine. Because
Okay.
how old are you? I forget.
47.
Yeah. I think you're okay there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Keep me posted, but give those things a try, and we'll kind of go from there. Like, we'll see how that treats you.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Okay, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Deborah, then Priya.
Hey, Deborah.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is understanding an oil that I'm using, which is Niaouli.
Mhm.
I researched what I could on your site and then elsewhere. I didn't find a lot on your site. Maybe I didn't search it properly.
It might be something I haven't done a big profile on. I mean, we have like 1,500 products, so
Yeah, sure.
best to crank something out. But uh, uh,
So what I did
I'm
find was that,
still working on all that. Yeah.
oh, for sure. It wasn't pointing fingers. It was just saying
No,
that
no, I
that's
know,
why I'm
but
asking the question instead
like
of just looking on your site.
if you do a deep dive, I don't even have anything written for lavender. Like it cracks me up. Like I'm like, ugh. Like everybody talks about lavender. There's very little on my site about lavender. So
Well, you don't need
it's
to
just
add to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's already done. You don't need to add that one.
yeah.
So
So
what I did find was that they compared it to a softer version of tea tree oil.
it,
Not on your site, but I found that just out
yeah,
in the public.
they do that sometimes because it is in the tea tree family. Like it's in the same botanical family, like Cajoput, that tea tree, and there's various forms of tea tree and things like that. Um, they are, even though they're in the same family, they are a little bit different. They both have an impact on the immune system and things like that. The thing with Niaouli is Niaouli is very good for like when the body has been like worn down and like the fires of the body are depleted. You know what I mean? Like the vigor and fire of the body is just like you're feeling worn down or burned out, or your immune system's depleted, things like that. Niaouli is quite good for that. You could even use Niaouli for an aspect of treating allergies. The thing that we usually do with allergies with Niaouli is you'd mix it with like dark blue tansy, and that combination can actually be quite good for that. But the thing that is also with Niaouli that tea tree does not do is it's very good for uh, the pituitary gland. And so it would fall in with treating things like pituitary issues, sometimes a little bit of adrenal issues, but overall, like the whole endocrine system. It doesn't fortify all the glands, but heaviest is pituitary. So there's that component. Very good for respiratory issues. It's one of the best things for bronchitis. Bronchitis where there's a really foul odor that comes like out of the mouth, so it's like a certain kind of like infection. Niaouli can be very good for that as well. And trying to think of what else you could use Niaouli for.
I mean, it's same with what you're saying, but you had me taking it when I had that weird, like spasmodic cough thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like we had tried a couple of different things with Samantha for a weird cough it wasn't like a mucus cough or something, how like sometimes you just get like a spasmodic cough, and we had you doing that and it kind of worked for that,
Oh,
right?
100% worked
Yeah.
for that.
And so we used it for that kind of cough, again, just because of what it's going to do for the respiratory tract and things like that. So very good for the immune system, very good for the respiratory system, very good for the glands, fatigue. Yeah, off the top of my head, that's all I'm drawing. Like there's more, but that's all I can.
Sure, but that's plenty. That's
Yeah.
really helpful. So when so like for me, you just have me putting it on my wrist.
Mhm.
And I had leftover on my hands and I swiped it across the rest of it on my thyroid area, thinking it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
When you were dealing with when Sam was dealing with the strange cough, how were you applying it then?
I had her taken
Internal.
an internal. Yeah.
Internally. Okay.
Yeah.
So today I finally got to see a functional doctor. It was the
Mhm.
first day with taking in a lot of information, but her first thing that she is wanting to tackle is a leaky gut. And I need to do some research about that. Do you have any sort of protocols or
Well,
oils for that?
it's complicated. Like there's not just like, oh, do this, and like you have to kind of lay out like layers of treatment. You kind of treat something for a little bit, and then you do another wave, and then another wave, and another wave. Is she just doing that based on symptoms, or is she running any sort of tests or anything, or?
My impression, because first time there's a lot of information going back and forth, is that it's she thinks symptoms dictated and that would be her first place to start looking for what's happening to my immune system. And so that's where she's starting. And then based on that, prescribing probiotics.
Yeah. I mean, the probiotics won't hurt, both pro and prebiotics. They won't hurt.
She thinks she's off, that we're going to go
Well,
down a
no,
different.
I mean, she's starting to explore things. It's just where she's going. Like, so
Yeah.
but that's the thing, is you gotta kind of let them like do their little explorations.
Yeah.
The reason why I hesitate, I'd almost rather like to see a little bit more examination, but sometimes the treatment is also part of the evaluation. Is that, there's certain conditions where it just gets thrown out there. You know what I mean? Like carpal tunnel syndrome, like they'll throw that out for all kinds of wrist issues. 20% of the time it's carpal tunnel, but the other times it's still a wrist issue, but it's maybe not carpal tunnel. You do something like Lyme's disease or Epstein-Barr or something like that. And even if somebody tests for the Epstein-Barr being present, it still doesn't mean that it's what's causing the symptoms of the condition. You know, they could just have it there, but it could be dormant. And so the reason why I'm like, is it's one of those ones that gets thrown out a lot, you know, like, oh, it's probably this or that. And, you know, there was a phase where, you know, anything that somebody had, you know, leaky gut was always a thing. And, you know, I think it's good to examine those things, but I'm not sure that that's, I don't know that I necessarily go all in on treating that until you get like more information or more facts.
Well, the other test that she is going after is cortisol.
I would be more curious about that than I would be about the leaky gut. Not saying that you don't, you know, there's not a leaky gut issue, but I would be interested in some blood work and like cortisol levels and things like that before I start jumping down the road of. But you know, if she wants to treat it with probiotics or prebiotics for a little bit to see if you respond, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, anybody could be taking that and it would make the body a bit healthier. And so you could go down that road. You know, it's nothing too extreme. So you could start it just to see if you end up feeling better. You know, the other thing, the reason why I like the cortisol is you went through a period of really high levels of stress.
Mhm.
And just from like, if I am using the intellect to kind of go, well, what makes sense to me? That could make sense to me. Like you went through, you know, a divorce and moving, and you know, you had a bunch of stuff going on. That is super hard on the body. It's super hard, you know, stress level wise. That you would have elevated levels of cortisol in the body. You know, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, it, you know, the tightness that I still have in my chest that I'm still relearning
Mhm.
how to not have a fight or flight response
Sure.
to my environment is still there. So that would be activating the cortisol. But she she is doing a blood workup.
Good.
Yeah. I
So
really appreciate your comment though about the leaky gut.
yeah, I mean it could be explored, but like I wouldn't jump on the bandwagon. Like
Yeah.
you know, be like, okay, we could treat it, but like I'm going to be skeptical about it, you know.
Mhm.
And so you know, because I get it, because I do that too. Like sometimes I'm like, it looks like this, let's start treating it, and then based on how the person responds, it tells you more of like, yeah, that's working, that's not working, it's might be this, it might be something else. You know, it's just part of the unwinding thing. And so, you know, you want to give the doctor room to like let them do their magic, so to speak. But at the same time, you know, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. You know what I mean? Like I even try to catch myself like, don't be a hammer. Like you know, you have to look at everything individually. And you know, going back to you went through a stressful time, even though right now you're not stressed, but you're still paying the price for that time um when you were stressed. And if I was to say, like, throw in anything in the mix, and including the aspect of maybe it's leaky gut, maybe it's cortisol levels, for me, I would step back and go, okay, both of those are impacted by vagal tone, you know, basically the vagus nerve. And so anything that you do for vagal tone, for one, it's going to make the body heal better. It's going to decrease muscle tension. It's going to regulate the stress response in the body. And part of vagal tone is rest and repair. But if you were to throw in another aspect to rest and repair, like you know how like sometimes they go fight, flight, or sometimes freeze, you know, like it's not just fight, flight, it's really activity. For rest and repair, it's also digest. Like so anything that has to do with the gut, if there's an issue in the gut, there's issue with vagal tone. Like bottom line, there's just issues with vagal tone. And so if the vagal tone is healthy, then you are digesting well. If the vagal tone is off, you are not digesting food the way you should, and you're having some sort of digestive issue. And so again, there's times where chasing after a symptom or like a kind of a condition or a series, I think it's good. Like we should do that. But sometimes we step back and go, okay, but if that area is not working, who's its boss? Like who's the one that's like telling it to behave that way? And when you look at like digestive issues, muscle tone, some of the things like cortisol levels, all of that, it might not be the big boss, but definitely the manager is vagal tone. And so things that improve vagal tone would be super helpful. Like, you do vagal tone, muscle tension goes down. Like you do vagal tone and digestion gets a little better. Inflammation reduces. The jaws loosen up. Like everything just starts functioning a little bit better. Lymphatic function starts to happen. Your body detoxifies more. And when lymphatic function improves, that also improves like endocrine function, because like the lymphatic system is like the UPS of delivery for the endocrine system. And so it doesn't deliver everything, but it's one of the carriers, And so given the nature of the symptoms and everything, and you step back and you go, what is something you can see in all of that? Vagal tone would be that for me. And worst case scenario, it's kind of like the probiotics. Worst case scenario, it makes you feel better, it makes you more relaxed, it makes you sleep better, even if it's not the thing that's causing some of these issues. Still improves your body's ability to heal. And so it's a good step. It might not resolve everything, but I would say, when you look at like homeostasis issues, vagal tone, the central nervous system, homeostatic emotions, limbic function, all of those help the body to heal and be in a better, like restful state. And most times when there's some sort of chronic issue that is not resolving or has been there a long time, it's been, chronic or just never, you're not able to break out of a pattern. I usually look at one of those. Like it's something in those like 4 or 5 things. Something's off. And if you regulate that, it makes whatever the symptom oriented approach much easier to treat, And then if we look at the energetic point of view, we always look at like all the different aspects of the aura, which is the mold or blueprint for those things to happen. And so I would start with vagal tone. You could do it a lot of different ways. There's the herb or their tincture, there's a various amount of oils. There's even a little like neck stimulator you can get on, I think Woodward get it on Amazon. And you put this little goop on your neck and you run this little, it's like a stim unit, but just for the vagus nerve, and you put it on your neck. And it is pretty nice. It's a couple $100 or something, but it stimulates the vagus nerve so your body relaxes more. And I get myotherapy from time to time, where the guys go in and they work the trigger points. And it's not massage. They get in and work the trigger point with like a lot of pressure and everything. And when I do my vagal tone before, and I never say anything to the practitioner, he can always say like, man, I can sink right into the muscle. I don't know what you did this time, but like, boy, your body is just really letting go of, the injury or whatever. And it's my secret sauce is always the vagal tone before I go.
So, besides the tincture, I mean, I know
There's
throughout,
tincture, there's oils, there's single oils like, marjoram, tarragon,
okay,
sage. The blue lotus body tonic works really
yep,
good. The Vagal Tone, be it the tincture, the essential oil, the body tonic, all of those things work. Um, uh, Even things like, I don't talk about Vagal Tone when I talk about like things like Niaouli and, even some of the fancier like precious oils, they'll push you into Vagal Tone too. I don't talk about them very much just because they're expensive and they're not necessarily the most practical way to do it. But they do work. They do work. And so I would say there's probably, a handful of oils that you have and the stuff that you have that you could start using to tone up the vagus nerve and improve rest and repair. And I'd start with that and kind of go from there.
I love that. It really
Yeah.
resonates.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And,
much.
and whatever you do with your doctor, it's only going to make that stuff more effective. That's
Yeah,
the thing that I like about it too, is you're not just like, it's not like an either or thing. It's like doing that is going to make whatever treatment you do for your gut, for your thyroid, for your muscles, for your back, whatever it is you're trying to treat, all of that will make it work better. Like all,
mhm,
the vagal tone. And so, like I have a little kit of tinctures that I travel with. It's like a little case that has 9. And so on one side I have all the ones for the aura. Then on the other side I have one for homeostasis. I have one for vagal tone. I have one for the central nervous system. I have one for the limbic system, and then I have one for I'm leaving one out, homeostatic emotions. And if I have something weird happen, or like, even sometimes we'll be traveling and somebody will be obviously super sick and they'll come and they'll sit down right next to us or something. And we're like, really? Like, ugh. And so, we still put on like, the topical things that we would use. And, we've been using those things internally. But when we have an exposure, I slap on something vagal tone related almost immediately, both Samantha and I. And it's just to like keep the body's ability to fight off infection, because your ability to fight off infection, even the more you're in fight flight, the less your immune system's going to function. Like your immune system functions better when it has a greater potential for rest and repair. And so even though we're doing all those other things, I still use it as like the special sauce that's going to make all those things work better.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
We just had
okay,
an experience, like we were just traveling and we were sitting on the shuttle to get to our car from the baggage claim, and a person sat down like right next to me, and they were obviously super sick and they had a bag from the pharmacy in their hand, and I'm like, ay ay ay, like,
yeah. They
you,
weren't
you
thinking.
know yeah, you don't travel when you're like that. And so, I did all the things that we talk about, and I mean, I was definitely exposed, and we got home, we've tested everything, nothing. So
Yeah. Well, thank you. This makes so much sense. And I do, I like, them working together, but going for the big stuff on my own to
yeah,
support whichever she does.
yeah.
Yep.
And I would say I'd still be curious about the leaky gut, but I'm much more curious about cortisol for you. You had way too crazy of a stressful time. And it was over, like, I can't remember how long you went through it, but it was
Years.
more than a year. Yeah.
Yeah. It was years. It
So
was
so you really
3 or
had
4.
a chronic state of stress for for a period of time. And I've had to deal with things that where I was stressed out for 5, 8 years at a time or something. And it was really hard on the body. It took a while for me to undo what had happened in that 5 or 8 years. One of the things that it did is it threw the glands off. Like
Yeah.
you're describing a lot of similar things that I went through. Like I didn't necessarily have a thyroid issue, but I had to go through and do a bunch of testing on the glands and had to work at balancing some things out in my endocrine system because of all the stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the big happy thing is that because of her being functional, she realizes that it's not the thyroid per se, it's something else.
Yeah, I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I would
But-
agree. Like the thyroid is usually rarely just the thyroid. Like in any of the glands, it's usually not just the gland. Even if you're having an adrenal issue, even if you're having a pancreas issue, usually there's other things going on. Because your body, when the homeostasis mechanism is agitated, or when the allostasis, which is your body's ability to change and adapt, is super agitated, it's trying to maintain some sort of balance. And so what the body does is it starts making trades like, okay, we're going to do this so that this works better, and we're going to do that so this works better. So heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugar, those are all the things that are first on the trading block. Then it starts to be like glands and all kinds of things where they can reallocate resources in the body to try to make something happen. And it's how the body starts tail spinning a little bit. We all go through phases of it, but the more you can stabilize that, the better.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit like one of those athletes where I mean, I'm not an athlete, but I was athletic where, oh, it's just a pain and I don't feel pain like other people. So you just
Right.
keep pushing through all the
Right.
symptoms until
Right.
I was overcome. So yeah, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Keep me posted on that.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Priya, then Lolly.
Hey, Priya.
Hello, how are you?
Yay. Doing good?
That's good. Could I ask a question outside of oils a little bit, please? I'm just curious.
Okay.
Is there an inner meaning behind a baby being born in the sac, like literally coming out in the embryonic sac and the nurse cutting open the bag and baby slipping out of it? Is there like a inner meaning behind it?
I don't think
Or
so.
not so?
No,
Not
it's probably
no. Just wanna,
was the baby okay?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, baby was fine. It's
And the
just
mom was okay and everything like that?
yeah, yeah. But it was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
different.
It's pretty weird, but
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank
Yeah.
you.
The birth went okay. Like there was
Yeah.
no big birthing trauma. That would be the
No.
thing that I would be more concerned about, is like if they had to like pull the baby out, use forceps, the baby was stuck in the birth canal. Those would be more of the thing. But I think you're asking more, is there like a mystical
Yeah.
something? And I don't think so. I mean, maybe
No.
it is, but I don't.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Lolly, then Ralph.
Hey, Lolly.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, so many things as always. Okay. So we talked about, oh, I know, okay. We talked about eczema with my hands, which right now they're great. Like what I
Okay.
did was amazing. Spike nard, like it worked so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did all the things and it's great.
Well, like, because you remember, like, we were talking about how that thing that where the skin around the fingernails and like the tips of the fingers, Like it gets eczema, but it will also go on cycles. And the thing that I like about the spikenard is, for one, it's good for the skin. It's also balancing this to the skin, and it's also calming to the nerves. And so, the thing is like, because it cycles, that it'd be good for a while, and then it flares up, and then it'd be good for a while, and so that it looks better than it has means that the cycle is diminishing. But like using it still for a little bit, good chance that you're just going to break the cycle. And even if it flares up, it probably is not going to be anywhere near as bad. And so just keep treating it until it just you just notice like it's been a while and it hasn't cycled through anymore. So
Okay. Thank you. So yes, I'll
Yeah.
keep doing that. Yeah, I've never used so much spikenard in
Yeah.
my life.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I actually also did that on, that's actually not a question, but just to tell you, I did that on my neck as well, because I had this tooth, something going on. I really like worked my neck so much, and that was super helpful.
Oh, good.
So yeah. But what I wanted to ask about eczema is, I worked with somebody the other day, and she was telling me about her daughter who's 4 years old, and she's suffering from eczema on her hands and other parts of her body. And I was wondering, how would you treat eczema with a kid? Like, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, you could still use some of those things. You could use Kunzia, you could still use I mean, St. John's wort works really good for eczema, but the issue is that if you're putting it directly on the skin and then they go out in the sun, it's going to cause a discoloration. So I usually don't mention
Yeah.
Palmarosa if there's a lot of weeping in the eczema. But I'd say like at that age, I'd be very curious about their digestion, like their digestion. And for a kid, sometimes digestion, I would also include like, was there any issues with the liver when they were young? Like, did they have a little jaundice? Are they prone to inflammations? Are they prone to allergies? Like, gather up some of that information and it'll make it easier to treat the eczema. Because there's something causing the eczema. It's not just like, oh, this is
That's
something. There's something up. Like
yeah.
it could just be that they're acidic. And weren't you telling me that like the raw apple cider vinegar was good for something like that, or it's just the little bumps that they?
Yeah, the ones on the side of the
Yeah.
So would you give
I
that
would
to, like, even for a
I would
kid?
get a little bit of a history, like
Yeah,
'cause you
for
can go
sure.
through and do it with healing, but I was like, I'd go deep on like, tell me about his digestion, especially when they start talking about the food, even if it's like, yeah, they seems to be okay, but he only eats like 3 things, or he only eats like 4 things or something, like
Yeah.
something's up. Like,
Yeah.
there's like food allergy, there's a food sensitivity, something's up, like if they're craving foods or something like that. And so like, it's like that thing, like what they say about terriers, like they may not see it, but they smell a rat. Like, it's like you smell something's up, but you're not quite sure what it is until you start poking around.
Yeah, and
And you're
I could
looking
tell
for
there's
just anything abnormal, like in those
and
areas, and it's probably what it could be. Yeah.
okay, and this one is not even a client. I worked with her on something else, and she mentioned that, and I was and I'm like, oh, I don't know how to troubleshoot it. So
Yeah.
but the first thing I said was it might be like a liver or lungs issue. So
Yeah.
Okay. And then
And the other thing that I would ask, which yeah, like little kids and allergies, weird things can happen that might not happen with an adult. And so I would say, like, does he have allergies? Does he have like emotional outbursts? Like, look for, because like little kids with allergies, sometimes they'll have weird, like little emotional behaviors or outbursts that happens when they get exposed to something. And so you're just trying to find like what's abnormal here, like and so does he have like weird behavior sometimes? Like not all the time, but just like from time to time. Like
Mhm.
the corn, like when kids are really allergic to corn, they'll be fine and they'll eat the corn and because corn's in everything.
Mhm.
And they'll get exposed to corn and they turn into little monsters. And then the corn wears off and then they're fine.
Mm.
And uh as much as people try to treat that as a behavioral thing, it's actually an allergy thing. Like it's just bad allergies. And so you just got to do a rehab for allergies and things like that. See what's up, see what's going on. But
Mhm.
at that age, it usually is easier to treat than in an adult, or even like after the age of 10 or 12. It's much easier to treat when they're a little kid like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then another eczema question. I came
Mhm.
across all these people all of a sudden. So a good
Mhm.
friend of mine was talking to her yesterday. She mentioned I started talking about aloes or whatever, but she said she has like those weird eczema patches, one of them on her face, the other one on her arm. She doesn't know what to do with that. She's about 76, and she had a really bad back injury a few months ago.
But
So she had
she had the eczema before that?
these, so those, her skin used to be dry, but then they moved and it's not as bad. And no, the eczema came in after. And I
Yeah.
also asked about her breathing, and she has issues with breathing. So, and I was like, maybe like something in the circulation is not.
Circulation, but it also could be nerve function. Like if she had a back injury, there might be some part of the spine that is compromised. And given those
Mm-hmm.
areas, like I'd look at neck and upper back, and the manifestation will be by the time the nerves get to the body and do what they're going to do, like you'll see like little weird patches of issues with the skin because of it. And so I would still treat the sites as eczema, but I would like deepen the breath, loosen up the spine, because when you relax the diaphragm, it loosens up the
Mm-hmm.
muscles in along the spine. So I
Mm-hmm.
would really open up the spine as much as you could, even though that injury might have resolved, or
It's
in her
not even
mind
really
has
resolved.
resolved, yeah, I would say, even if there's no pain, there still could be soft tissue issues that need to be resolved, even though she might not feel discomfort. And so just because there's no discomfort, nerves could be asleep, there still could be a postural issue, something could be out, tight, or like being pulled out of place, who knows. And so I would treat the site and treat the spine.
Okay, so yeah, it's still not resolved, and I actually haven't treated her yet with anything. She's
Mhm.
very, very open to using oils.
Mhm.
So she's so basically we treat the eczema as eczema, like doing similar to what I did, like working with spikenard, and then working like the vagal tone, working the spine, working the breath, and all of
Mhm.
that.
For,
Okay.
for her, it jumps out to me a little bit like um homeostasis mechanisms. Like it feels like a little bit for her that could be an issue, even more so than vagal tone. And so like the blend balance or valerian, even if you just use like a valerian tincture, um that lady slipper tincture that we
Yeah,
have,
I have.
that
Yeah.
that's a super reset to homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like valerian on steroids.
Yeah.
And so it was in a kit, like a little half ounce thing was in, I can't remember what kit it was, but um
Yeah.
like in the
It
last
was
couple
the
months it was in.
it was in the digestive class.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Because that's
so
how yeah.
I would try something along those lines and then treat the areas that we talked about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, but if we're going for a second back to homeostasis, so in my mind, when I'm trying to break it down, or to get like a good explanation in my mind, I'm like, okay, what does that, I guess I'm stuck in it, like, what does that actually mean? How do I break it down? Okay, so you gave me what you can use, but when you look at it, it's what? It's something with an...
So homeostasis is your body's ability to maintain like a balance. It's the ability to maintain balance and to stabilize itself. And so allostasis would be like when the body's going through some sort of change. And so most times you're looking at homeostasis, but even when you're treating homeostasis, you're usually treating the allostasis as well. And so what happens is that the body can get like its ability to stabilize itself can be diminished, or it can be really rigid when it comes to like change or adapting to things in the environment. And so that would have like an impact on, you know, stressing out or agitating various systems in the body. But really, when you look at it, it can be like when you just see like part of the physiology is starting to tailspin, like things are going on where they might not even be like related, but you know, like the blood pressure goes up, the blood sugar is a little off, they're getting injured a lot, they throw their back out at the drop of a hat, they got a breathing issue, like, you know, just like a bunch of things going on. That's more than just like, oh, they need to deepen their ability to go rest and repair. Like something is not able in the mechanisms there, it's not able to stabilize the body. And so and when those things are off, like I was saying before, the body starts making trades with systems to try to balance itself off, and it just starts going down like a bad lane, like it just starts tail spinning kind of. And so the more that you can like calm that down, stabilize it, you know, a good example of like addressing that is when you get an injury. What are you supposed to do? Rest, ice, compress.
Mhm.
The rest part is to stabilize homeostasis. Like you're stabilizing the body, you're letting the body heal. Because if you don't rest, the body kind of, you know, you're starting to run on a little adrenaline and you're starting to tailspin a little bit, and it just doesn't allow for the body to heal itself. So yes, you're dealing with vagal tone, but on a bigger picture, you're also allowing the body to stabilize itself.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. I needed the breakdown to get
Yeah.
even the understanding of how you separating in your mind, like between what's vagal tone and what's homeostasis.
Yeah, like
So, yeah.
I would say like vagal tone is one of those ones where you could go to just about any time. Homeostasis doesn't always need to be addressed, but you know, another good example is like say you're doing vagal tone work and the person's like, I'm still not really sleeping very good. Then like the next level up is like, okay, that is tied to homeostasis. There's a homeostasis mechanism. And so, you know, especially if life is chaotic, they had an injury, like here, she had an injury to her back, and so, you know, you start looking at like, okay, homeostasis is also going to, if the body is not able to stabilize itself, then for one, it's going to be hard to go into rest and repair. And even if it goes into rest and repair, it's still not going to stabilize it. Like it might do some things, but usually they're not able to go into very deep rest and repair mode. And so sleep is always a good indicator. Like if they're sleeping good, homeostasis is probably okay. If they're not sleeping good, you start going, well, homeostasis, vagal tone, you know, you start kind of doing the math. And if it's been going on for a while, I lean a little bit more to homeostasis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, they're all very similar, but it's almost like a different layer of the onion. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so.
Okay. Okay.
I am trying to write some of this stuff out um, for
And-
you use so that you have like little ways where you can evaluate, because you know you're not really like dealing with, oh, if you see these symptoms, this is what's going on. It's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like bird watching or something. You're
Mhm.
just out and you're looking around and you're like, I hope I see fill in the blank, and you know you're just looking for all the little nuanced things that are going on, and then you're like, there we are. That's what I see. You know?
Yeah. And I remember that there was a class you talked about homeostasis and allostasis, and now I'm realizing it was the Sandalphon, the
It was in
original one.
Sandalphon,
We
and
talked a little bit about that.
it's a big piece in the angelic healing, because part of the angelic healing is your, you know, that's the thing with you know, working with angels. There's you know, there's like the new agey version, but like the old school mystical thing with working with angels is called theurgy. And you know, when we're working with angels, we think of like, okay, let's invoke an angel for this, let's invoke an angel for that. But theurgy is the art and science of making your body conductive to the angel. You're not, it's not like, oh, what's this angel do? What's that angel do? That's not even a thing that's on the table for theurgy. It's like, what do I have to do to my body to be conductive to this particular like angel, right? And
Yeah.
or just angels in general. And
Yeah.
so it is this way of tempering and causing the body to shift and change, especially your lower nature. And one of the big things that happens when you really start invoking and you've made your body conductive to angels, and you start like communing with an angel or invoking an angel, is your body has to be able to stabilize. Because you know, like when people are doing their thing, they're invoking an energy, but it's not like doing theurgy. Like theurgy, like there is an essence that's coming in and is going to make you shift whether you want it or not. It's going to happen. And so you really have to heighten your ability to stabilize your physiology. Even though it's this great experience, it makes the body shift and change. And so you have to allow your body to change and then stabilize it. So on one level, sometimes that's what people call grounding. But grounding is like the light version of homeostasis, a very, very light version. Like a deeper, more mystical thing was like you really stabilize and regulate homeostasis. You do that, you're always grounded.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about the class next week.
Yeah.
But
what class is next week? Is it the angel class?
Oh,
that's
well,
the angels.
well, so this weekend is the 2 free 1 days, and then the next weekend is the angelic killing.
The
So
angelic healing. Yeah.
yeah.
We're
Yeah.
doing a 2.0. Yeah, I'm going to be doing, like, even in the newsletter, I put a little thing out on, didn't I? Like on homeostasis, allostasis.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
that's kind of a little excerpt out of the 2.0 class. You know, it's a little bit more involved in the class, but still, I wanted to just throw that out there for people to play with, even if they just wanted to do something for homeostasis. That's, you know.
Mhm. Thank you. And then another thing I wanted to know so I asked something last week about, when somebody gets an IV and they have, what the word I used was hematoma that they have afterwards. I'm wondering what happens if we're not looking at that. We're looking if they have like thrombosis, which is a different thing.
Yeah, that's very different.
So all right. So what I'm wondering about, because the hematoma you said I could use helichrysum and that. But if it's like a superficial vein thrombosis, what would you use for that?
I would still, I would still use helichrysum, but I mean, I would definitely also make sure that they're under a physician's care because that
Yeah.
can be quite serious.
Yeah,
Helichrysum could still work, but
okay.
thrombosis can be a little bit difficult to treat. You know, sometimes the issue is too, like a couple of times I've used like big dosages of lemon with some helichrysum, and you know, we got the clots to break up, but they still needed to have some medical attention, even though the clots were breaking up, just because, you know, there started being movement in the clots. And so usually when I treat something like that in somebody, I'll only do it if they're under the care of a doctor, like, you know, a doctor's
Mm-hmm.
just because, like, you know, that can be potentially life-threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this specific one is very, like, it's very superficial. So it starts to disappear. But
Mhm.
using something in addition to that.
I would
Yeah.
do helichrysum. Yeah, I would do
Yeah,
helichrysum.
okay. And would you do internally as well?
Internal. Yeah, internal.
Okay.
Just like 2
And
drops.
okay. So topical as well, right?
You could, but it's probably more important internal.
Okay. Glad I asked. And then simple
I mean, put it
questions.
on topical doesn't hurt, but you're probably not going to get enough of a therapeutic effect topical.
Okay. Thank you. And just a quick one, because I'll save the rest for because other people. But just a quick one, sunburn. What would be your go-to? Like, because you're like
Yeah.
lavender or
Yeah, I would take just like lavender in a bath, like in a cool bath. But the ultimate for a sunburn is take some lavender and mix it in with aloe vera gel and then rub it all over the area, and it will literally suck that heat out.
okay.
Yeah,
So even for
that
more
combination is very simple and it works really well.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could always
And-
use like German chamomile if you didn't have it, or Roman or Cape chamomile, or you know,
Mhm.
something like that. But lavender works so well for burns that I just tend to do that.
Okay. And then so aloe, the liquid aloe vera that
Mhm.
you mentioned that I can mix with the spray. Does it have the same, so would it have the same properties if I want to use it like for something like a sunburn, or would you do more of like the gel that has
I would do
more
the gel.
sensitivity?
Like the
The
gel is gonna, I mean, the aloe vera that you're talking about, it would have an impact, but the gel is gonna be way more effective for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Ralph, then Megan.
Hey, Ralph.
Let's get you unmuted.
Okay, let's try this again.
Hey, I can hear
Hi.
you. Hey.
Vagal tone body tonic. Where's
Mhm.
the best place on the body to apply that?
So I would say any areas that are compromised that maybe even have a little bit of pain, and it's not so much that it's going to be a pain reliever, but it will calm down the pain response to allow your body to go into a deeper level of you know, vagal tone.
Okay.
And then the sides of the neck, like, you know,
Okay.
up on the neck, back of the neck, that's the hot spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I did with it was I put some on my temples,
Mhm.
some on my wrist,
Mhm.
and then a little bit in the notch in the back of the skull.
Yeah, sure, that could work too. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but like this, like side of your neck, like right here,
Mm-hmm.
heavily impacts the vagus nerve.
Okay.
So like if you put it on there, it's just like a direct route to the vagus. Like all those spots that you talked about also it would have an impact. But like that side of the neck, like you hit there, you're good.
Okay. All right. Um, for the deep tissue body work, just the sides of the neck is all they need to apply for.
For vagal tone?
Yeah. For the,
Um,
adding the Vagal Tone body tonic before I go see the deep tissue body work.
oh yeah. The other place you could do it is your abdomen. Like
Okay.
for that, I'd throw it on the abdomen just to kind of hit the gut a bit, and I'd call that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. And then I noticed in your little missive this week, you had a very interesting combination of mental steel and thieves.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I knew Thieves from the old 1980s oil company out of Salt Lake.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
you had some comments in there. I'm not sure whether it was the combination of the two or the Thieves itself you had the comments on.
Well, people are doing combinations that they call thieves, but it's not the original thieves.
Okay.
That was way back when.
Yeah.
And so I would say like that blend that you're talking about is good for the immune system, but it doesn't necessarily do what the thieves thing, the original, like the original thieves blend that those actual thieves used. You really can't make it completely with essential oils because there's some things that just don't have oils. So that's what I did is I made it with like in a tincture, and then I take that and then I call, there's the Thieves blend with the immune support, which is all about strengthening the immune system and then antiviral activity. But part of like what you're trying to do with the Thieves blend and mental steel, like you're trying to help the body or help the mind not degenerate. And part of that is tied to immune function and viral activity. And so even if you look at that blend of mental steel, a lot of those oils in there are antiviral. And so there's the degeneration that can happen in the mind, but also degeneration in the body can cause that. And so I did this little thing where I was just like, okay, I've been slapping it on my wrist and inhaling it, but what if I tried a different route? And I did it just the mental steel by itself as a body tonic, and it was good. It was working better like on my wrist, I think.
Okay.
And but I was like, but if I had a tincture, and I sat and I did a bunch of evaluations and I came to that combo and then I was like, let's slap that on. And then I was like, oh, okay, I think I got my own attention here on this one. Like it's a nice combo, because a lot of times when we feel fatigued, like the first thing that really is depleted is immune system.
Okay.
And when your body starts degenerating, yes, it could be nervous system, but it's usually also immune system. And when you're fortifying the body and the body feels strong and you kind of feel like, man, I could take on the world today. If you look at that person, their immune system's really super strong and healthy. And so even when we talk about anxiety, a lot of times I say with anxiety, it can be psychological, but most times it's not. It's usually the breath or it's the endocrine system. It could be the nervous system, but one of the factors is that it can be immunity. And anytime that the body starts to go through and degenerate a little bit, be it the mind or the body, if you step back and look at it, there's different factors, there's different ways to try to stabilize it, but one of the ways is pump up or stimulate immune system. And so like I'll give you an example is when I was doing all that work with whiplash patients. So, I would see whiplash patients that had a whiplash 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. But and I had a different kind of system for my notes for depending on how long ago the injury was. But the thing that I noticed with people that I saw like right after the accident, because I was working with an ER doc, and she was in the middle of doing the study for UC San Francisco on seatbelts. And so she was kicking me over all the whiplash kind of oriented patients, and that would come. And what I would notice is that usually at about, I don't know, like I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but would say at like maybe about week 6, like maybe week 5, week 7, 8, they would start to have fatigue issues. And like it's very common, like with whiplash, like at first they have an injury and you can see there's like a little misalignment in the shoulders, but at some point 4 or 5 weeks into it, one shoulder really starts hanging, like the one side has gone into a spasm and the other one has lost tone, and it's due to the injury of the neck muscles. But whenever I would start to see that shoulder hanging, there would be fatigue, and their body would not be getting better. It would start to go into this degenerative process. And so, I had many patients that I could practice on. And so at first I was like, whoa, what do we got to do? Like, I would start trying to do certain things to stabilize it. And, because you're dealing with a trauma, you factor in like, okay, is that psychological? Is it this? Is it, psychogenic, where the stress of the accident is causing the body? And, I did all these like really complicated ways of approaching it. And then I remember just one day, like standing there, and I was like, the person is obviously starting to show signs of fatigue and tiredness, and let's just try to pump up their energy until we can figure out what's going on. And so I started doing that, and lo and behold, that usually resolved it. And I started looking at the oils that I use. They're all antiviral, every one of them. It was like things like Ravensara and thyme linalool, and they weren't like always the first thing that I would use as antiviral, but like if I went, what's a common denominator here? They were all immune oriented or antiviral. And so I started taking this approach of, we would, as soon as I would see it, I would start treating it, and we would just go right to doing antivirals and immune oriented like treatments. And I was already putting them on things to kind of stabilize the homeostasis and things like that, but sometimes even that's like not enough. And so we would try to help them with sleep, but then also like fortify the immune system. And what I started noticing was, okay, as soon as I start treating them, they stabilize out kind of quick. And so when I started treating people that were only like maybe a week or 2 out, I'd stabilize the injury. And then I started treating that condition as if it was just, it's going to happen. It's just already there. Like, I just can't see it yet. And I started noticing people that even had much more significant of an injury didn't have the period of degeneration, because that's the thing with whiplash. The nature of the injury isn't just the day of the accident. It's usually worse like 6 to 8 weeks out, because your body is some things are in spasm, some things got inflamed and lost tone. And so there starts to be this muscle imbalance that keeps getting bigger and spreading throughout the body. And then eventually the body kind of goes out of homeostasis and just everything kind of goes out of whack. And, vagal tone gets hit hard because it's an injury to the neck. And so the more that I treated the immune function, prior, before they started having that difficulty, that it was usually very minimal, or their body would never go through that period of degeneration. And valerian is a very good like restorative, like you're restoring homeostasis.
So
Lady
valerian
slipper,
for valerian for homeostasis restoration.
yeah,
Okay.
valerian is very good. That blend balance is very good, which it has a bunch of valerian in it.
Mhm.
And then lady slipper is real good. That's why I mixed lady slipper and some valerian in there. It was
Well, I've got valerian. I don't have lady
yeah,
slipper. at the
you're
moment.
use the valerian, like you're fine with that.
Okay.
And so the thing that's good about that is, for one, it keeps sleep good. It relaxes the body, it acts as a muscle relaxer. But the combination, the valerian, or whatever variation, because back then I was using lady slipper as well, they also correct and minimize muscle imbalances. And so by treating the homeostasis at night with the restoratives, and then fortifying the immune system, like while they're awake, like I'd have them wake up and just start doing things to fortify the immune system, they wouldn't go through periods of degeneration, or if they did, it was very small. Where before, I mean, people would.
Well, I saw my mom go through 2 whiplashes
Yeah,
when I was a
like,
kid, so I know what
like
you're
you
talking
see,
about. Yeah.
And it's not right off the bat, but it's at some point. And
Yeah.
so that idea of mental steel was based on those years of when I was treating whiplash. And I was like, because they start getting anxiety, like all those things that we were talking about, like how the mind can start to degenerate a little bit. You're still fortifying those areas, but I just thought, if I mix the thieves in that, because I did a little trial run of some other like immune oriented things, and that original thieves blend, the one that was on file back in that little town, it was really good for that. And so I used to make it by hand in real small batches just for whiplash patients, and then I stopped. And but that's why we kicked it up again and started putting it out there. But there's a bunch of things out that are called thieves, but most of them have antivirals in them, or some form of it. So it would be good on some level. But I just went to the old school, like the first original Thieves formula is what I had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a good combo. It could be other things as well, but like think immunity and antiviral, because like here's the thing too, because this still falls under the heading of immunity, is sometimes like if they already had like a little bit of a pre-existing health issue, especially if it was an inflammatory condition, after the whiplash, they would start to get dementia. And usually when that would come on, that's just like, okay, this person has dementia now. And I was like, I call BS. Like I think we can undo the dementia. And the issue was to fortify the immune system and do the things that we're talking about, and then have them pound things that are very anti-inflammatory. And when we did that, you just pull them right out of the state of dementia, the dementia wouldn't come back. So I started coining the term, like it's transient dementia, because it was based on an inflammatory state. And even there, you can see that poor immunity or inflammation literally degenerates the mind so much that it actually would stop working. Like they would develop dementia. And instead of treating it like a brain issue or a cognitive issue. I was like, that is immunity. I'm telling you, it's immunity. And when we treated it like immunity, we could pull them out of the dementia. Now, there's other chronic health issues that have dementia, but they don't always respond quite as well as the whiplash or injury patients would. But sometimes it's still something that I try on them.
Okay.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
All right.
Yeah.
Where is the best place to apply that tincture blend, the mental steel and
Just on
thieves?
your chest and abdomen. Like I just usually do it there. Sometimes I hit a little bit up on my throat, but
Mhm.
I usually just rub it on my chest. I get up in the morning, take a shower, then rub it there, call it good.
Okay.
Yeah. If you don't want to rub it on your chest, rub it on your feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Vagal tone, back to vagal tone. One thing I missed. What's the most optimum time of the day to apply that?
I kind of like doing it at night.
Okay.
Just because you're toning it and then you're going to bed. And so you're kind of reinforcing the pattern that you're trying to set. Don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, I still use it during the day sometimes, but I think if you're going for maximum bang for your treatment time, nighttime is best.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because I was digging around in some things and I found the vagal tone Sunday afternoon.
Mhm.
And then I put it on Sunday night and I slept the best I have slept for a
Yeah.
long time.
Oh yeah.
And when I got up in the morning, it was like my body says, okay, it's time to get things done. And I was
Right,
like,
exactly.
the white tornado hit the office.
Right, exactly. See, I love it. I will say I have a little bit more pep in my step when I work the vagal tone. I'm a little bit more focused. I get more things done, and I tend not to procrastinate as much.
Yeah.
There's times where I'm like, yeah, I just did a bunch of stuff. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where, like, if I've been working the vagal tone, I'm going, yeah, I did a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to knock this out right now so I don't have to do it tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Do yourself.
And I'll have to order up some of that mental steel and thieves
Yeah,
combo.
yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yourself.
And then go ahead, Megan, then David.
Hey, Miss Bacon.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, were you the one asking about the brown spots and the
Yeah.
limbic spots?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I think you heard me, but if not,
Sandalwood. I got it written down.
yeah,
It's in bold
I did
and
a deep
italics.
dive and I found some article that they had studied that and sandalwood is what they used.
Awesome.
I'd
Starting
never heard
that
that,
today.
but yeah.
Cool. I just need some guidance, like on a few weeks ago. So I was saying I was trying to do a lot of materialization on like getting my healing practice kind of hopefully jump started, and it kind of wasn't working, and it's since the winter it's just been dwindling. And you said to do tuberose with the wisdom of the heart pattern, front heart, back heart. So I did that a bunch, and I did a little more materialization, but it's kind of hard at this time because I'm kind of spinning out a little bit, because it's gotten so like I just have one client a week now. And so now I'm just getting stressed, and it's harder for me to like try to get over to intuition and try to let something new in or whatever I'm supposed to be doing right now. And then, it's also on my mind if I should just go and get a job, which would be fine if I just had any clue what job I should get. And I have such a long, unfortunate sort of history of like just a pattern of choosing the wrong thing, investing time, investing money. It doesn't work out, splat. So I'm particularly worried about like trying anything, new. Because and I'm like trying to just listen and pray, and it's very hard for me. I just don't, nothing comes in. I don't know.
Okay. Let me just look at that for a second. Well, vagal tone has definitely improved. Hmm. Have you been a little bit more introspective, or has there been little bouts of maybe low grade like depression because of it?
Um, Not quite depression. I've kind of had a couple little meltdowns just because like the career thing has always been this
Right.
difficult area for me. And so I definitely got to a point of a lot of frustration this week. Like I've put so much attention on this area of my life. I don't know anyone that's ever, doing so many techniques, trying to figure out what's my hang up if there is one. And just feeling like it feels no different than it felt 10 years ago. It doesn't feel like I have a sense of what I could be doing with my life in that area, what I could actually earn any income on. And so I just feel it just always feels like I'm just banging my head against the wall, getting nowhere. So I'd probably call it frustration. And yeah, over the years I've been depressed about it for sure. I haven't really had depression since I started doing your classes much actually.
Let's have you do do you have cystis?
Yeah.
So let's have you do cystis, do the 4 quadrants,
Okay.
and then do the 3 brain pattern. Where you go sex, Ming Min, front solar, back heart, brain, and then crown. And then do the quadrants again, and then do the 3 brain thing again. Try it with cystis, and try it also with Palo Santo. Like cystis would be my first try, but I'd almost do them both. Like, doesn't have to be in the same day or same week even, but just maybe rotate back and forth. And part of what you're doing is in this process is, it goes to like the thing that we talked about last weekend in the class, the auric waves, is there's the third aspect is tied to like the auric waves is like your function or your physiology, like the emotional processes, the mental processes. And that third aspect is tied to what you would call like primitive or primal aura. And it doesn't mean like like your lower nature or anything. It means like things that were put in motion, like your first experience, like our early experience, like your first intense experience, their first. And so what happens is, like say your first day on a job, or some bad experience when you have like a little kid. Like the one that I use for me is, I lived on a neighborhood where my only friends were kids that lived on the neighborhood. I lived in a little small town, and they were nice kids. And so I just at a very young age, I had in my head, probably made some internal like decision or declaration like, oh, good friends are people who like treat you like crap and take your things. And, of course, that's not something that I want to think or I want to repeat, but it had such an emotion and repetitive thing, because it used to cause me a lot of conflict when I was a little kid, that is like a primal or a primitive response. So it's like it's a first time experience. And then your energy body and your physiology just keeps replicating it.
Yeah.
And as much as you try to go, well, I'm going to break out of this, like it's kind of a weird thing to say, but like trying to break out of it almost causes you anxiety because you're stepping out of the box, you're stepping out of the routine. And we want to, that part of the aura is going to be there, but we want to do a reboot so we let go of those things from the past. Cistus is very good for that. Palo Santo is good for that. Benzoin can be good, but Cistus and Palo Santo are better. And so I would work that. Like in the class, we use the alchemical blood 3. But both of
Oh,
those things
that's
are in
great. I
there.
have that. Okay.
No, it's a new one. It's only been in the
Oh.
class.
Okay.
There's blood 3, but this is alchemical blood 3.
Okay.
And so anything alchemical is treating the impure version of whatever it is. You know, like there's Venus, but there's also an impure Venus.
Okay.
And so it would be tied more to negative processes and things. And it's very, all that stuff is very complex.
Yeah.
And everything. It's kind
If
of
I
cool.
wanted to do the whole advanced approach with it as well as the standard approach, which is just the 4 quadrants, would that make it stronger, or do you think
So
just for
for Auric waves, the potent way to do it is actually you're not doing the super long thing like you would in the Auric programming. You're doing the 4 quadrants and then 3 brains. Like that's what
Okay.
you do. So you would do just like what we talked about. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So
And if
maybe
you want to
do
make it
that,
more
like-
potent, just keep cycling through it. Do the 4 quadrants, 3 brains, 4 quadrants, 3 brains. Like you do a couple cycles of it, because like the 4 quadrants, really what you're doing is you're bringing it out in the 6th chakra, the solar plexus, and the brain. And then when you go through and you do the 3 brains, you're fleshing it out. And then you go through and you do the quadrants again, it brings it up to the surface again, and then you flesh it out again. So you're going deep into like programming and physiology. And so you have to kind of do it in those waves where you bring it up and then flush it out, and then bring it up and flush it out.
Okay.
Like if you just tried to go like, okay, I'm going to get this out of the body, it almost doesn't work because it's too like embedded in the systems and the processes. And so you have to really work those 4 quadrants, bring it up, and then flush it out, and then
Okay.
just keep repeating.
Can I do it every day, or is that too
You
much?
could easily do it every day. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, that sounds exciting.
And then
I'll-
still do your materialization stuff. Maybe take a week off just to let yourself kind of focus on this. But after about a week, go through and then start to do the materialization breath again.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you so much.
You're so.
And then go ahead, David, then Letty.
Hey,
Hi,
Debbie.
Greg.
Hey.
Quick question.
Yes.
If I wanted to use rue more than just inhaling, could I use it in a diffuser
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and it's gonna have the same benefits?
Yeah, like if you're really trying to actively like cut a cord with somebody, I'd probably stick it in front of your nose, but it would still inhale. It has a cleansing effect on the body, and it does help you to detach from, projections from other people.
Yeah, I'm doing the inhalations, but I thought, I should support this because I really want to make some changes.
Yeah.
And I was wondering about the diffusing,
Yeah.
so that would support it. Okay,
Mhm.
great. And then popular balsam CO2 therapeutic ointment. What do we use that for? I've forgotten.
Good for stress in the body, can help a little bit with pain management, but it helps the body make transitions and shifts. So good to put
Oh.
on before you go to bed at night. It's good to, even how we transition and shift in our mental processes, like say you're doing something at work and then you got to shift gears and do something else. That ability to shift gears and do something else and let that other thing go is what you call like mental transitioning or mental shifting. It helps with that. It helps with that quite a bit.
You talked about Palo Santo doing that. Is how
Palo Santo would do it as well. Yeah.
they're similar in the similar way.
Sage would also do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the new one, the Tractalodes, like that would do it. But yeah, poplars so nice. And not that CO2, it feels nice on the body. It feels really nice on the body. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Greg.
You're so welcome.
I mean, just on that note, I actually like to rub that one, the poplar, on my chest before bed, and it does help me with my sleep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right. It's probably good. It helps transition into sleep and then phases of sleep.
it might,
It's
yeah.
actually a good call.
And then go ahead, Letty, and then we have some questions in chat as well.
Okay.
Are you a grandma yet?
Not yet. I was just laughing at Sam's comment because she said that the baby must be waiting to be a cuss baby.
I said, because
But
those
anyway,
are the best people.
Those are the best people after all. Is that the case, Greg?
Well,
Well, we're the 22nd.
yeah. That's still kind of a cause.
Yeah, 20th to 22nd is considered cusp. So
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're actually on, you and I are actually on a cusp between a Capricorn and a Sagittarius.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
But do you relate yourself more as a Capricorn?
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
All day.
I have a little bit Sag tendencies, but I am very Capricorn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I'm pretty
Yeah,
Capricorn. Yeah.
What about me, Sam? We're gonna ask Sam. Sam, am I Capricorn too?
You have some good Capricorn
Yeah, you
tendencies.
definitely.
The good ones.
The good ones.
Like if you were in my family, I'd go, maybe I'm not adopted. But right now, I pretty much think I'm adopted.
But you know what? That's strange that you say that because it's kind of how I feel with my family. And like, am I
Yeah.
adopted? Right? Like we're
Yeah.
just completely like different.
Super different.
Yeah. Greg, so I had a question on my right. It's my my left hip.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's going on with it. There's like a deep pain, but it's like somewhere deep inside where
Like deep in the
I do
socket?
press like on the in my glute area.
Okay.
And before that, also I want to say thank you because I feel like it's Christmas in July for me. So I'm just wondering if anything that I got, like, will it work on my hip? I mean, I did get some marjoram.
So,
I
but
got
it's
the
hurting
popular-
deep in the socket or
not
like,
in the socket. I feel like it's like in the glute because like I try to feel like I even had my sister like trying to like look for it. I'm like, Sandra, like there's just a pain like inside deep and
what does the pain feel like? Does it feel like a toothache?
yeah, like it's just there.
But does it like kind of ache like a tooth, or is it sharp, or is it just
It's
like
not really like sharp, it's just a dull, achy pain. Like I don't know if I did something wrong. Like
that sounds like it might be a little low grade piriformis syndrome, which is it's compressing the sciatic nerve a little bit. And it's a big muscle that runs across your butt cheek is the piriformis. And when it gets tighter or aggravated, it pushes the sciatic nerve up against part of the pelvis. So the muscle is pushing the nerve up against a bone. And so that's why that is an issue. So I would treat the low back, but I'd treat your hip as well. Use things that are antispasmodic, and then also things like pain relief, neuropathic, like things that have like mint in them. Directly on the spine and on the butt cheek itself a little bit as well. And
no, the spine would be like the whole entire spine, like from top to bottom.
No, just the lumbar. Just the
lumbar.
Yeah. Like I do that, and I mean, it's the hip. It's not the back, but some of your stomach muscles from the front come around, and you know how you have those little crests on your hip, like the top of your hip. Your hip bones. Like some of your stomach muscles come around and attach there.
Okay.
And so I would say, treat the localized areas, but I would even throw a little something on the abdomen. Just to like take some of the tension off, just to keep opening up the spine and the hips, because sometimes with the abdomen gets like tight, or there's some trigger points, and it starts to throw off the like how the hip, it doesn't rotate like this, but it'll rotate like if this is the two sides of your hips, they'll kind of rotate like this, like one's farther forward than the other, or one's farther back than the other. And that actually is a structural way that can throw the piriform syndrome into a bit of an issue. And so one of the things that I would look at is, like, I look at across the top of the iliac crest, which is that top part of your hip. I treat the abdomen, and then most times when you have back issues, you go to like the hamstrings, sometimes the IT band along the sides. But when you're dealing with that, the pelvis might be rotated farther forward or back, you actually look at the quads, like the front part of your leg, the big muscles on the front side.
Mhm.
And sometimes between the abdomen and the quads, something's off there and it's making the hip rotate in a funky way. And so try that for a couple of days. And then, maybe Thursday or Friday, shoot me a text or an email or let Samantha know. And let's see if that did it. And if it doesn't, we'll do something different. Yeah. But that's, I feel very good about starting with that. Treating
that.
stuff.
Greg, another question on that. Like, do you think also like an adjustment would work? Or no, it has to be more like
It
more muscle.
It could. I mean, it's hard to say. I would say it would depend on the chiropractor, but the thing with balancing out the pelvis, it actually doesn't even, like, if you're to do it with manipulation, you don't even really have to do it with like a pop of something. Actually, like a lot of times what you do is you have the person lay on their back and you get on the outside of the like say the pelvis is here, you're on the outside of the pelvis and you kind of push those two bones together, and then you hook your fingers in and then pull them out, and you kind of go back and forth like that. And they're not really moving in a way that where you can go like, oh, I totally felt that move. You're just kind of putting a decent amount of pressure that way, and then you're pulling them out. You go back and forth, and then you have the person lay on the stomach and you elevate the leg. You're basically stretching out the leg and the quad and the psoas, and you do both sides, and it usually will balance that out. But it would be hard to do yourself. Like
Okay, maybe I can get my sister
the
to help me.
pelvis thing, I would say. I mean, I could guide somebody through it, but it's better like when you've practiced it a whole bunch, because it's not a lot of pressure, and you don't want to like be going like this. You want to just apply pressure and like hold, and then pressure. Like you don't want it to be like bouncy. You want it to be
Okay.
really consistent. And so, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So try the oils. That's probably the easiest way to treat it.
With the oils. Okay.
Yeah.
Just another quick note also was I know my daughter's kind of her actual due date is this Friday, but just want to make sure like everything's okay, because I'm like a little surprised that like she hasn't delivered yet, because they
This
said
coming
that
up Friday? Oh, I thought it was last week. No.
no, the official one is this one.
Yeah.
First time babies, aren't they usually at least 2 weeks?
Yeah.
early?
I'll check. Like I'll check tonight, but I would say it's probably okay. I'm telling you, you just gotta walk up behind her and go boo.
Okay.
I'm the only one that ever thinks that's funny.
Then I had a private question that I was gonna see if Sam could read to you, but you want David to go first, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Sam. Here's Jody.
Great.
Hey,
Hi.
Jody. How
Hey,
are you?
Greg, nice to see you.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm sharing your oils with people at work and I can't believe it. I have one person, he's walking around with Rue. He said he's just smelling it all the time. It's just.
Oh, good.
But I also got him the mugwort, artemisia, and the sleep tincture.
Oh, yeah.
And I just ordered ginger lily for him as well. What's
Oh,
the
perfect.
fastest combination? Because I know he's not gonna, if I tell him it's gonna be something.
So
like
what are you
that.
trying to do?
I want to help him fall asleep. He
Um,
all way wound up at night and he stays up
is he
crazy.
able to fall asleep and he's not staying asleep, or is he having a hard time falling asleep?
He doesn't fall asleep. He's just up.
And does he have a very stressful job, or does
Very
he?
stressful job.
Very stressful.
Yeah.
Mm. Do you guys have some marjoram?
I do.
Yeah, I would say just make a little tiny vial of marjoram, just have him smell it as he's going to bed. So a couple of things. So marjoram will help pull him out of fight flight, and it will tone up the vagus nerve, but it also will relax the body. It's good for sleep. And it also helps him like transmute some of the homeostatic emotions that come from like deadlines and work and stress and dealing with people that might be upset at it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It just helps all that. There's fancier ways to do it, but marjoram is such a good workhorse in that area. I would start with that because it's cheap, it's inexpensive, it works really well, and he could go crazy with it and it would be fine.
Okay. And then how does he use the other stuff, or would say don't?
Like I would have him do the marjoram first and then have him go back and forth with the mugwort and the artemisia. If he'll follow the pattern, you can do the pattern, but if not, just have him just go back and forth, like 3 breaths, 3 breaths, 3 breaths, 3 breaths, 3 breaths, 3 breaths. You just have him do that.
Okay, and then the ginger lily, or is that too much?
The ginger lily, just tell him, anytime he's feeling like I'd say like especially upset or had an especially hard day. I mean, he could just cap that off at the end with doing all that other stuff and then a little ginger lily, but especially when he's having a harder time.
Okay.
And then the sleep tincture, just drop her full or even 2 dropper fulls right as he goes to bed.
In water or just in your mouth?
Either way, like I do it in my mouth, but most people put it in water or juice or something.
Yeah, I did my mouth. It was great. Okay, and
Yeah,
does it
that's
matter
the way I feel.
order?
But
Does it
what's that?
matter when you do it? Do you do it at the
No,
beginning?
I'd say within like maybe 30 minutes before going to bed.
Great.
Because like there's this thing, like if you start relaxing and you go, oh, I'm gonna go to bed, you'll let go. But if you start relaxing and then you go, yeah, but I'm gonna stay up and watch one more episode of, whatever, then all of a sudden you kind of miss that window and you still feel relaxed, but you're not falling asleep. You want him to start relaxing and hit that window of falling asleep.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
And go ahead, Letty.
Hey, Miss Letty.
Sorry, Greg, one more question. So today at work was kind of like a little bit crazy, but so Rue's good to separate from everybody. What about to separate from like the whole like the event from today? Because there's always like, with special needs, there's always, and especially that the summer program is a little bit different than the regular school year. It's just a little chaotic, like all the just things that happen, and then you have the paperwork to do, then you have to call parents.
And you're just needing to disconnect from
like I mean, from people, and craziness, because it's like, we have that one girl telling me that.
Pull out your aloes and smell the aloes at the end of the day. Even put like a drop in your hand and go like this, and then just
Okay.
That used to be my old trick. You know how like you get to that place where you're just like, I'm on my last nerve. I would put a drop of aloes and rub it kind of lightly, and I just kind of like rub it on my face and my head and over the top of my head, and then like within 5 minutes I'm like, I'm chill. You know, it flushes some things out, it calms the central nervous system, and it flushes, like when I say it flushes things out, it flushes things out of your field. And it just kind of flushes things out of the mind. You know, it is a deeper way of detaching and I would say disentangling, you know, because like cutting cords doesn't always mean disentangling.
Yeah.
Where when and you know you have your Cardica, like you have a Cardica, right? She has a Cardica.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, where those really crazy ones, go through and use the Cardica and just like disconnect. Do the aloes and then go chop, chop, chop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like my boss got like kicked in the knee today. And so they had called me, they're like, hey, by the way, there's something going on in that room. And then I still like I ran up the stairs and I'm like going to show up to see what's going on. And I'm just kind of like, but everything was already calm. But just the fact that it was like, what? Like what's going on up there? So I ran
Right.
upstairs. And that's just those kind of days, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I
Seems
will
like
end.
not just in your world, but it just seems like
Mm.
those kinds of days are happening more and more and more and more and more and more, or doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just seems.
We have a few minutes if you want to do a
Yeah.
practice.
So let's
I'll
see.
keep looking to make sure I didn't miss
Make
any
sure we
other
didn't miss
questions.
anything. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, let's do this. Let's see if you have Splinter. And if you don't, no big deal. But Splendor, and then if you don't have Splendor, Mugwort, Artemisia, Palo Santo. If you don't have those, Chakra Root Cleanser, even Sage. And then if you don't have one of those, let us know and we'll still come up with something.
I think we're good.
Okay, so we're gonna what we're doing here is we're dealing with aspects associated with abandonment and rejection, and like how it hits the emotional body and the physiology. So it's a little tiny excerpt out of the abandonment class. That's a free class coming up in a few weeks, but you know, let's still throw something in the mix here. So you have one of those oils. If you want, you can think of situations where you felt rejected or there feels like there's abandonment, but if you don't recall something, this will still do what it needs to do. So reflect on it for just a moment. Okay, so you're going to hold your bottle to your chest, like so. You're going to hold it to your chest, head down, inhale, hold your breath, up, exhale, down, inhale, 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 Up, exhale. Down, inhale. Up, exhale. Just be still for a moment. Now, begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the sex chakra. Long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the sex chakra. Move your awareness to the low back area, the backside of the navel, known as the Ming Men. Then move your awareness to the solar plexus, the front solar plexus, below your ribs on the upper abdomen. Your awareness is on the back heart. Awareness is on the back heart, the area between the shoulder blades. Your awareness is on your brain. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths. Then your awareness is on the crown, the top of the head. And then just be still. Now bottle to your chest again, chin down. Long, slow, deep breath. Head up, exhale. Down, inhale. 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 Up, exhale. Just be still. So it's a little tiny taste of some of the work in the abandonment thing. Hopefully that helps you feel a little better, a little more relaxed. You want to keep doing this process tonight, you could, but it's a good start. Helps to calm the limbic functions, which would be tied to, our emotional reactions to abandonment and rejection. So we're going to slide over to the prayer petition blessing with a star. Join us if you can. It's a little 15-minute thing where we go through and bless the prayer petitions and just have a couple moments of reflection and peace. And if not, hopefully we see you tomorrow night or on the weekend.